Good morning, YouTube, and welcome back to the garage. Today we're going to be removing the cab off of the Steiner 430. Pretty simple all in all. As you can see, we got the forklift in. We're just going to remove the bolts. There'll be two here, and then two on the back for the ROPS. Same on the other side. And then there'll be two, one on each side, right down here. So we'll take those bolts out. We're gonna run some straps up over onto the forks, and then we'll pick the whole cab up. I actually have a pallet I use. It's set up right here. It's pretty simple, just some 2x4s, but the cab will actually sit down onto this pallet, and I'll be able to run some screws into the pallet itself, hold the cab, and then I can pick it up and move it around. So stay tuned, we'll be pulling the cab off. Alright guys, I got the bolts out of the back of the ROPS. Now I am leaving one in just to hold it up until I take tension off. A bit of advice, if you're going to pull a cab off like this where you take it off with the ropes and you lift it up, you're going to want to pop these lens covers off. It's really simple. You just take a screwdriver, come in, pop them off. And what's going to happen if you don't is when this comes up, it'll hit this and knock it off anyways. And I haven't broken one. I learned the hard way the first time when I popped it off. I haven't broken one yet. All right, next I'm going to disconnect the power and ground. Just a quick 1/2 inch connection. Ground. Disconnect power. Pull that out. Pull my ground out. And now this will just hang off. And I'll probably zip tie it up once it's on the pallet. Put these back on. All right, so I got the front bolts out on the bottom. Got the seat flipped forward, the storage compartment, the battery compartment, the lids, you want to keep them flipped forward. And I actually do have some of the tension off of the tractor and onto the forklift, so we're going to fire it up and go ahead and lift it up. Let's see how this goes. So there we have it. Cab is up in the air. And I'll just jump on, start the tractor, pull it forward, and then I'll slide the skid over and drop the cab down onto the skid. So there you have it. Cab is completely off. All I do is screw some screws in right to the mounting spots and right into those 2x4s I have set up. And that mounts it right down to the pallet. And then I put some screws in, same with the mounting spots in the front. You can put the doors back on. I'll actually wrap it up in some shrink wrap just to keep it protected, maybe put a cover over top of it. And that's it. It's stored away, ready to go for next winter. All in all, probably about 20-25 minutes, and now I can move it around easy or put it up on a shelf somewhere. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the reverse fan. Now, this is only available if you have the liquid-cooled Kubota gas or diesel, doesn't matter which one, but it's got to be the liquid-cooled model. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be removing this fan right here. I have the winter fan on right now, and how it works, real simple, is the summer fan draws air in here through the radiator and blows it across the motor and out. So it's drawing cool air in, across the radiator, and blows it out. The winter fan, or known as the reverse fan, obviously, exact opposite. It's going to draw air, the warmth from the motor, it's going to pull it across, it's going to pull it through the radiator, so you're going to take that warm air, then you're going to have the radiator, which has warm fluid in it, and you're going to blow it into the cab of the Steiner. It actually comes through these vents right here and these vents right here. With the cab on and the reverse fan, what I can tell you is I was absolutely blown away by the amount of heat that is produced. I literally could be outside, windy, 10 degrees, 0 degrees, didn't matter. Inside that cab, you were toasty warm. So we're going to go through the process of switching that out. It's very simple. It can seem intimidating at first, but it's really not. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to mark these brackets that hold the radiator, because you're going to be moving the radiator back, not removing it, just moving it back and pulling this fan shroud off, which is easy to do, believe it or not. And then once that's off, we'll be reaching down in and we'll be taking the bolts off of the fan and then bolting on the new fan. All right, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to remove the screen, the grass catch screen from the radiator. And then with our bracket marked, we're going to go ahead and take these bolts out, and I've already loosened them. They are 10mm bolts, but you're going to go ahead and take them out. Just set them aside. I'll put that down there. We'll come around to this side. Take this one out. All right, so with them removed, and what you're going to want to do, or the goal of this, is we're going to be pushing the radiator back. And what you do not want to do is jam it into the back of the hydraulic valve. But as you can see, there's probably about 2 inches there, and we're going to need that clearance. So with those bolts out, what will happen is this will move back very easily, and you can bring it back pretty much till it's almost touching. So what I'm going to do is I take a bungee cord and I come up around and come back down, and that will hold that back. All right, so I've got the bungee cord, just comes up, goes around the radiator and down. It's just holding it very gently against the back of the hydraulic valve. And then I went ahead and took the 4 10mm bolts out, and you move the fan shroud forward. And what that's going to do is that gives you the clearance you're going to need to come down in here and take the 4 bolts out of the front of the fan. We'll take these 4 bolts out, we'll pull the fan right up out, and we'll drop the summer fan back in. All right, now let me show you the tool I use. I use a snap-on with a stubby socket. It's going to be a 10mm. Everything on this job is 10mm except for the bolt for the alternator. But I use a stubby 10mm. Let me come over here and show you how we do this. So you're going to have 4 10mm bolts you're going to need to take out. So you're going to take your wrench, and if you try to go in like this, it's not going to fit. But if you turn the wrench, it'll fit in fine. And now you can get on all 4 of those really easy. Break them loose. Okay? Once you break them loose, don't take them out, just break them loose to start with. Then you'll want to come over And you're using the tension on the belt from the alternator to hold it so that you can break them loose. Once you break all 4 of them loose, you're going to want to go ahead and mark where your alternator is. You're going to loosen your alternator bolt and you're going to push your alternator in, and that's going to take all the tension off this belt so that you can easily spin this, because you're going to want to easily spin it to remove the bolts. Alright, so at this point, I've got my alternator forward, I've got my marks. Here's where it needs to be. I've got it forward probably about an inch, inch and a half. You want the belt to be loose enough that you can spin the fan really easy, but very important, you want it to be tight enough that it's going to hold tension against this pulley right here. What happens is when you take these 4 bolts out, you are taking off the fan and the pulley that bolt into the water pump. So it's key that when you take the fan off and take that last bolt out, you're very ginger in pulling out the actual fan. As you can see, it moves a lot. You want to keep that pulley on there, and you want to keep it lined up as best you can, because it has to go through the fan, then through the hole in the pulley, and then into the water pump. Now I have it set up right now where I just have 1 bolt left in. So I'm going to try to show you here one-handed what this looks like. So I've got the bolt loose. I just use my fingers. You would think it would be hard, but it's not that bad. All right, so the bolt is out. And the fan has dropped. Let me set that bolt down. But as you can see, that pulley, let me see if I can get a picture of this. The pulley wants to come off too. It's not on there. But you kind of just want this belt to just hold a little bit of tension so you have the space or the marker where those holes are. So I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to hold this pulley, and then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to pull this fan right out through this shroud. Alright, so with the fan out, as you can see, that pulley just kind of rests on there. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to move it too much, but just let it rest. It'll leave it lined up, and that belt holds the tension. Now coming down here, that's the winter blade, and that's the summer blade. And I actually mark on them, obviously winter and summer, and then I mark motor side and rad side, so I know which way it needs to face. So, this being the summer blade, motor side, this is just going to drop right back in, just like so. And I'll let it sit there, pull it back up, and put the bolts back in. Alright, so pretty simple from here. Tighten up the bolts in there, the 10 mils on the fan. We'll go ahead and put the fan shroud back on. Pull the bungee strap off. Bring the rad back forward. Tighten up and line back up your bolts on the side, and then we'll come around and we'll pull the alternator back tight to where it was. When you're pulling this tight, one thing you do want to do is make sure you don't over tighten it. You should still have a little bit of flex in the belt. I see guys crank on them. If you pull it too tight, what will happen is you'll prematurely cause failure to the bearing inside the water pump with that tension, which is a common problem with the Kubotas if you pull the belt too tight. We'll get it all buttoned up. Alright guys, there you have it. It's all buttoned back up. It's got the summer blade on there. Winter blade's right there. Cab's off. Snow blower and snow plow are put away. So I'll be getting the 60-inch deck out soon, and also the leaf blower. you have any questions, put them down in the comments section. I'll try to get them answered. If you like what you see, we got a bunch more videos coming out. Please hit subscribe. Until next time, at the garage.